Hello once again to everyone, and welcome to the third webinar of this Around the World webinar series that Marie Curie Alumni Association organizes. And to tell a little bit about this series, we usually co-organize with different chapters of the Alumni Association. And we run these webinars on the second Friday of each month. And today it's a great pleasure to have with us the Western-Balkan chapter. And they are going to talk to us about their post-PhD careers and professional pathways. And we have with us 4 amazing researchers that I'm going to present each individually. You'll see how amazing their career path was, at least until now. And so I'll start with Radenka, who just recently took the role of head of the proposal writing unit within the framework of the STRENTEX EA chair, established at the Faculty of Technical Sciences of the University of Novi Sad. She is actually a former MCAA individual fellow at the INEA Casaccia Research Center in Rome, Italy, where she worked on her project developing ceramics for electric energy harvesting. She earned a Ph.D. from the Department of Physics of the University of Antwerp, Belgium in 2006 for her work on luminescent nanomaterials and novel glass ceramics, and subsequently worked in the field of material science in Italy, France, Serbia, and Portugal. Prior to her latest career move, she worked at the University of Donja Gorica in Podgorica, Montenegro, as the Assistant Director of the Food Hub Center of Excellence and an Associate Professor at the Faculty of Polytechnics. She is the founding chair of the Western Balkan chapter of the MCAA. She is an advocate for science for policy, science diplomacy, open science, RRI, and gender equality in research. She is also the Montenegrin representative of the Council of the recently founded Regional Network of Women in STEM for the Western Balkans. Thank you, Radenka, for joining, and welcome to the webinar. I will also introduce Nikola, who is a scientific researcher working at the Institute of Physics, Belgrade, as a senior research associate. His field of expertise is plasma physics, called plasmas at low pressures and atmospheric pressure. There are diagnostics and applications for treatment of surfaces, environmental remediation, and biomedicine. He got a PhD at the University of Belgrade in 2012. A part of his PhD he accomplished as a Marie Curie Fellow, working at the National Scientific Research Center Democritus in Athens. He is a member of several committees of international conferences and the Vice Chair of Marie Curie Alumni Association Western Balkan chapter. Hello, Nikola, once again, and thank you for joining for the webinar. Ivo is a Macedonian French inventor and scientist with living experiences in 5 different countries. He did his bachelor's and master's in Lyon, Claude Bernard University, and a PhD in Newcastle University and New Wells Biotech in toxicology and stem cells. Throughout his life, he has worked in 6 different labs, including Pasteur Institute, iSTEM, Public Health England, to name a few, and assisted more than 20 workshops in different countries in Europe, as well as online. During his PhD, he successfully developed an induced pluripotent stem cells-derived airway model, patented by New Cells Biotech startup, and he presented his work in the House of Commons of the UK Parliament in 2020. He has a vast experiences in developing in vitro models from iPSS for the use of toxicology and drug discovery. Welcome, Ivo, to the webinar. And Ornela, who I would like especially to thank for organizing the webinar and for agreeing to lead the webinar itself. She is a scientific advisor to the Ministry of Health and Social Protection of Albania through the LEAD Albania program. Previously, she was a Marie Curie PhD fellow, where she focused on the application of artificial intelligence in medicine, specifically on cancer. Ornela has conducted various scientific research in object recognition, image segmentation, and predictive analytics in cancer in Spain, the USA, the Republic of Ireland, and Finland. Before her PhD, she was part of a joint Erasmus Plus master program in pervasive computing and communication for sustainable development in France, Finland, Russia, and Sweden. During her master's, she founded and co-founded 2 startups in Sweden and Finland, respectively. She finished her bachelor engineering in computer engineering in Albania and the UK. She is an active member of the Marie Curie Alumni Association, where she is the current chair of the MCAA Western Balkan chapter. Ornela organizes events to promote scientific research and European grants in Albania and abroad. She holds various awards, and she has also received various grants from the European Union. Thank you once again, Ornela.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for registering and being part of the webinar today. And today is actually a special day. Before we start actually with the speakers, I'd like to share that actually today is the International Women's Day in STEM. And since I have this microphone on, I would like to applaud all the women who have contributed actually to the body of research throughout the years, but especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. And would like to name just a few, at least those who were received MCAA grants, who are actually our role models. In 2020, a former MCAA fellow, Dr. Manuel Carpentier, received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry together with Ms. Jennifer Doudna. And again, in 2020, Maria Fatima Lucas, a partner in the MCAA RISE project called the League Science, won the European Prize for Women Inventors. With this, I will give the floor to Radenka, another really great MCAA alumni, who will talk about her career. Thank you, Radenka.
Thank you, Ornela, and thank you for inviting me. I really support this initiative with webinars every 2 weeks. It's really a great opportunity, I think, for all the MCAA members to talk and discuss different topics. So I will talk briefly about my career in science and research, and I think it has some similarities with other speakers as well, but there are also some unique points that I will highlight. And we know everyone has their own path, and some paths are maybe straighter than others. So mine was not really straightforward, but when I did my PhD in physics, it was, I graduated, actually, it was 15 years ago, so a long time ago. And it was a different kind of job environment than today. And being from a country that wasn't associated to the framework program 7 at that time, there were just fewer opportunities to go abroad and do PhD abroad, or to be on a project, or to there was not an opportunity to be part of the Maria Curie action as well. So Montenegro only joined the FP7 in 2008. And I went abroad in the year 2000, first for my master's degree in Italy at the University of Lecce, now University of Salento. And after that, I started my PhD at University of Ca' Foscari in Venice. In 2004, I went to do 1 year secondment at the University of Antwerp at the Immature group. And after I finished that, I was supposed to come back to Ca' Foscari, but they told me that they had some financial problems, so they couldn't support me to finish my PhD. And then I was lucky and got offered a new PhD fellowship at University of Antwerp, where I stay another year and got my PhD there. So it was summer 2006, and I was a bit tired and nostalgic. I wanted to go back home and find a job there. So I used my vacation. So summer 2006, I was back to Montenegro, and I went to university here, public university, and I had a few talks with professors from several departments, and they were all like supportive, but they told me that they can't offer me any position. And that's where I've heard, maybe for the first time, what are you doing here after all that work abroad? No? And that's something of a recurring theme in Montenegro, and I think also in the Western Balkans in general. The same summer, I also participated at one international conference that took place on the coast in Montenegro. And I presented my work, and I got to talk to several researchers from the Vinci Institute of Nuclear Sciences from the University of Belgrade. And I talked to them, and after a couple of rounds of talks, I got offered a position by the director of the institute. So he was very happy. He said that they would offer me a permanent position, and that was something. So I accepted, and by the end of 2006, I was working at the Vinci Institute in Belgrade. And I stayed in Belgrade for about 10 years. I started as a research associate, and I became an assistant research professor. And in 2006, I got the position of research professor. And during this time, I also did a 7-month postdoc stay at Enea Brindisi Research Center in Italy. And also I got a research in Paris grant for visiting researchers in 2013. So I stayed at the University of Pierre and Marie Curie in Paris for 6 months. So all this time I was doing pure research. So I was mainly working on luminescent nanomaterials and optically active ceramics, but also I was writing proposal, winning proposal, managing grants and several bilateral projects, and organizing conferences, mentoring younger colleagues, and I mean, all the stuff you do as a researcher. And another thing I want to stress also, I was networking a lot. That was something I was famous maybe in my lab about. And I was a person, a go-to person if we want to have some international cooperation. So I was just good at building relationship and partnership with other labs abroad. And then I got married. And I went on 2 closely spaced maternity leaves, and that was 3 years in total, from 2014 to 2017. And that was all great, great experience and complete, life-changing events. But it also meant that I have a gap in my publication record, like probably most mothers in science. And I used my time then to think a bit about what I really wanted to do with the next part of my career, because that was probably the first time I could actually stop and think what my goals were. And I started thinking of applying for a Mariuslavska Curie individual fellowship. And actually, I used my maternity leave to write a grant, to write a project proposal, and I applied in 2015. I did well, but I didn't get the grant. But I was very close, and that just encouraged me to apply the next year again. And then again, I didn't get it. But I said, okay, I will do it for the 3rd time, and that's the last time I will try. But in the meantime, I was also searching for a new job. I wanted to get back to Western Europe, and I applied and won a place, a post of Science and Technology Manager at the CQM at University of Madeira in Portugal. So that was a job for 3 years. And I was basically running the microscopy lab there. And it was a brilliant experience. But I think in the 2nd week of my stay there, I submitted my IF application for the 3rd time. And this time I got the grant. So that changed my plan. I didn't stay 3 years in Madeira, but only 10 months. And I decided to pursue my IF immediately to work on my project in Rome at the Enea Research Center. So if I compare my research before IF and after IF, there is difference. So before IF, I was doing mainly research, but during my IF, I also realized that that there are other things connected to research in which I can be involved. And I think this happened mainly because I got involved with the MCAA. And I'm very thankful to the MCAA that accepted me and gave me opportunity to grow both personally and professionally. So I spent loads of time doing research, obviously, but also I was involved in the MCAA activities, outreach, science communication, dissemination. I started in 2018 first the Western Balkan interest group, and then a year after we were able to start with the chapter. And already I ran the chapter for 2 years, and I think that I realize again that I'm interested and I really like doing networking. And this whole idea of having a Western Balkan chapter came out of the fact that we needed to network and promote science and the MCAA actions in our region, whether as a diaspora or being home-based researchers. And probably when I was doing my IF, I realized that it's important to do also this volunteering work. I know Ornela now knows that running a chapter is really lots of work, and it takes up lots of your time. And you are basically a project manager for the chapter, and you are running these projects apart from your real work and your own projects at work. So, but I really enjoyed doing all of that, and I realized that it's also important part of being a researcher. So I was coming to the end of my IF, but then COVID happened, and that completely changed my plans. I was really happy with my work in Italy, and I was planning to stay there, but with COVID and this how to say, insecurity that we had, we didn't know how much time it would take to have vaccines and what will happen. And the 6 months we had there were really not pleasant. So we decided to move back to Montenegro to be more in a family environment for the children. And that also meant that I was without a job. And after a while, people realized from the university that I was there, and I wanted to use my experience of managing projects to help other researchers rather than be a researcher myself, because also there was no real opportunity for me doing my type of research here in Montenegro. So when I was offered the role of the assistant director at the Food Hub Center of Excellence at the University of Donja Gorica, I said yes, even though I didn't have a background in food technology or food safety. That was the topic of their research. But I was basically responsible to the day-to-day management, reporting, applying for funding, and all of those project management tasks. And it was a good experience, and I learned a lot how to manage and how to deal with projects that are not related to my field of expertise. And also I was working with my network on things like gender equality in research in the Western Balkans, also academic mental health with the REMA Coast Action. And I was mentoring 2 master students, my colleagues from the Food Hub. And I tried to build also new relationships and international connections for the center. And I did also a little bit of university teaching as well. So now I have a new job. So I just started the 1st of February, so really recently. And it's the head of proposal writing at the University of Novi Sad in a frame of the STRENTEX Zero Chair project that is a project working on wearable electronics for applications in medicine. And why I accepted this position, because I saw there was an opening for what is essentially project manager support role and doing grant writing. And these are both things that I like doing, and I think I'm good at this. So I accepted this position. And that means also I will move again for I don't know how many times I've been moving so far, but it's a good opportunity to combine the things I like doing. And also I will have enough freedom to do things I care about, improving the research environment in the Western Balkans and working on gender balance and responsible research and innovation, and writing projects that I hope will make a difference. And I think it's a good and long-term opportunity to formally move to being more of a project manager with impact on society, policy, and science in the region. And that's my path from pure researcher, scientist to research manager, STEMinist, and grant writer.
That's quite a long journey, and you have touched in many countries and also different stages of research, as you mentioned. Thank you, Radenka. I think we will leave all the question at the end. So we do our presentations first, and then we'll leave the question at the end. Thank you. Nikola, it's your turn now. We would love to hear your story.
Ornela, yes. Thank you, Ornela, for inviting, and also thank to MCAA communication group for organizing this interesting webinar. Actually, I can share a small presentation. It's just if they allow me. If not, I can just talk like this. It's more like a reminder for myself. And maybe since I'm working in plasma physics, I think there are better, I mean, the images that can be shown here are, I think, better than seeing my image in the screen whole time. Yeah. So, you also nicely introduce all of us. I won't stay much long on this. I just want to stress that I'm a physicist, plasma physicist, now working at the Institute of Physics Belgrade, which is part of University Belgrade. And what we study here in the our group is what's called low temperature or non-equilibrium plasma. So it's plasma at room temperature. It's actually gas discharges, and which can be produced at low temperatures and also at atmospheric pressure and low pressures. And they are very interesting from both fundamental part of research and also for applications. So it's something, let's say, a scientific field which is in between fundamental science and engineering. And the story I'll be presenting today is actually from my perspective of someone who got educated here in Belgrade at University of Belgrade. So because both master thesis and PhD I got at University of Belgrade, although part of the research work for my PhD was done abroad. So let's say most of the time I was stationed here, just moved for a few years or a few months in different places around Europe. And also the story I will be telling is from the point of view that after my PhD, I continue my career in academia. So I'm a researcher still sometime, not now, not most of the time, but sometimes spending hours in a lab. So as I said, I think the presentation is better because if you do experimental plasma physics, you can make nice photos. Although I'm not a very good photographer, these are quite colorful photos presenting these different kind of plasmas. And you know, all these photos, actually these plasmas are doing something. So we are treating some surfaces or some seeds, or we are do treatment of textiles and that kind of stuff. So actually I will tell a bit about that a bit later. You actually meet people from various fields if you work as a plasma physicist. So as I said, I did my PhD thesis. I defended it at the University of Belgrade. The work has been done, most of it, at the Institute of Physics, Belgrade. But halfway through my PhD, there was an open position, a call for a Marie Curie fellow at Initial Training Network, which is now called Doctoral Network, and to work at the National Center for Scientific Research Demokritos in Athens, Greece. And actually, and I applied, and we had several interviews, and eventually, as far as I can remember, they said, okay, we can admit you and you can come, you got the grant, but you need to be very fast in moving and you have to come in 1 month. So that was quite an adventurous step. And I spent there 2 years. And what happened there, actually, that they started the project and they made the call. They got their PhD student. He started, and after a bit, I don't know, 8-9 months, he left. So they were almost at the beginning of the project and without a PhD student. And then they made another call, but what they had to offer is actually only 2 years of funding, which is highly from enough, far enough from to make a full PhD. So actually, I didn't know that when I applied. I just saw it's 2 years, but I didn't know these details. And eventually, through these interviews, it turned out that actually I'm a perfect candidate, because then I had my PhD halfway done, and they also could be sure that after the project finishes, the financing is over, there will be a PhD defense. So the point I would like to make here is that, okay, there are rules, but many real life situations are really asking for some adjustments. So actually, if you are updated and you follow all these calls, you never know, actually, although it's the rules are there and everything is written, you actually don't know the full scale and the full story behind the situation, and how to get informed. I for instance, got this information from a colleague from Slovenia. So this networking is very important, as Radenka said, but I'll get back to it. And also one thing, since we're all coming from Western-Balkans, it can be advantage and also
minor correction. We are not all from Western Balkans here.
No, but
we have attendees from other countries.
Yeah, but okay, I mean the speakers. Sorry.
Yes.
But just I wanted to stress this point that there are also advantages and disadvantages, yeah, because sometimes due to some rules or whatever, there could be some advantages if you come from this region, but also if you are applying to EU calls and also to projects to work there, it also means a lot of administration in getting all paperwork done to get your contract and all these papers according to EU rules. So that's why I just wanted to say, okay, probably this is like a roll of a dice, so you know, you can be, let's say, sure the range you will get, but not the exact number. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to mention and to show some of the people I work there. Professor Gogolidis and Angeliki Serepi are there, still leaders of this plasma group. But what actually they are doing is they are using plasma for a treatment of different kind of materials, and that was actually very complementary with what I was doing in my PhD, and that was pure plasma diagnostics. So actually the plasma, if you use it as a tool for treatment of different kinds of surfaces, it's a very tricky to control. So actually you need to know a lot of parameters, and you get your information about parameters through plasma diagnostics. So what I learned there was actually quite complementary to this part of the PhD that I was working on. Of course, moving to South has very nice aspects in life, like during the winter, the temperature never falls down below 5 or 7 degrees and that kind of stuff. But actually the whole concept of moving your place of residence is really something that that I think everybody should try. If you move for like 2 years, I moved to Athens, then you can really like start to live there, to experience and to share the life with other people living there. If you go just for a few months as a working visit, then it's a bit different, but still you can get a lot of it's completely new information, and really sensation is nice. So when we talk about this, just let's mention not many occupations in general can afford this kind of things. So if you would like to see and experience this, I think science is a really good way to do it. Yeah. Anyway, so after my PhD defense, we actually continued. I moved back to Serbia, and I started as a postdoc at the Institute of Physics, and we continue our collaboration. And we actually published several papers. We also did small joint studies. We applied several times together with also in other consortiums to this EU project calls, but we actually didn't get one together. So we collaborate with Institute for Nanotechnology and Nanoscience in Greece, even today, but only these small joint studies, because actually we still don't have joint funding. But what how this influenced to my career? Well, actually, I deflected, let's say, I turned from this basic plasma science towards plasma applications, and nowadays I work more in this plasma application fields, and but it also opened me different ways of doing this research in plasma application field, opening different ways to collaborate with people from Hungary, from Germany, from Slovenia, and also did some short stay visit in Soleil synchrotron, because we were doing some mass spectrometry there, where plasma devices are involved in this measurements. So I had also a great opportunity to experience some working in a huge system like a synchrotron. And after I don't know how many applications, we also got one H2020 ITN project where I'm a co-supervisor of a student, and the project is dealing with new approaches for treatment of polluted water. One of the new approaches is using low temperature non-equilibrium plasma for that. And so actually I can say I was on both sides as ITN trainee, and also now as a supervisor participating in this Marie Curie actions. And nowadays, as I said, most of this research topic I work on, they are quite interdisciplinary. For instance, this plasma treatment of water and the decontamination of polluted samples, we treat different kind of polluted water, trying to figure out the mechanisms behind this, and also to see if we can scale up to industrial level and use it for purification of water. And also we have a different kind of collaboration with people from biology and medicine. And this is my group in where I work in Belgrade. The part of it, actually, it's that there are 18 people in the group, and we all do different studies but all studying non-equilibrium plasma. So just to put some points after the story. So the whole way from before my PhD and after my PhD, what I could experience and sense that there is a strong link between research and administration. Actually, when you start doing the science, you actually just say, okay, this is something boring that I should do, and but actually it's a really important part of science, because actually you need to learn how to communicate with others, and that is the others are actually in most of the cases, let's say, administration and those who are making decisions. And actually you need the bottom line is that you need to understand how to communicate your ideas in a level that those who are making these decisions can decide to understand them. But and of course, making a proposal or Marie Curie, both individual fellowship or working in as a in a consortium preparing a project proposal, it's one way to learn that. But the other way, let's say, which is accompanying all this doctoral training, is actually that you need to provide all this administrative stuff related to your visa, related to your working permit and all this. So actually, this is also a very important part. Of course, you cannot function without that. And for all that things, it's very good if you have help from administration. And that brings me to another point, that way to overcome all these difficulties, not only in science, but also in this administration, is actually good networking. To have, in many cases, it's very important to have contacts and to know who to call and who to ask. And many things that seems like unsolvable have very simple solutions, just if you find the right person to ask to. And finally, can a career in academia be adventurous? I would say definitely yes, and I would really encourage people to follow their path and their ideas, and also to be prepared to change a bit their ideas and the plans, because actually you never know what it can, what another day or another month can bring. And with this, I'll finish my talk. And okay, we leave questions for later.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikola. Ivo, it's your turn now. I know you have a different career path, not in academia.
Yep. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes.
I prepared a little presentation. All right, so I will tell you a rather different story from what you're used to hear from post-PhD careers. And this is going to be my own perspective, so don't take my word for anything I say. Like, this is just the way I see things, which is not necessarily the best way of seeing things. It's just one way of seeing things. There's plenty of ways of doing. So I actually recently finished my PhD, which I thought it's a bit funny that I was invited to give a talk on careers post PhD when I just finished my PhD, but that's fine. And as soon as I finished my PhD, what happened was my parents started posting on Facebook, like, "Oh, look, we're so proud. Our son has the PhD. Well done. Proud colleagues and family." Everybody was happy. Everybody was praising me and everything. But then when I started looking at the comments, some of them were like, "Okay, congratulations, blah blah," you know, the classic stuff. And then there was this one comment who was like, "Congratulations for Andre. Sorry for being late on the congratulations." And Andre is my brother, which actually shows you how people don't actually care whether I got my PhD or not. They just wanted to say a thing like, "Congrats to my parents." So it was just like my parents being happy, you know. But what now? Okay, got my PhD. What now? What does it mean to have a PhD? So I decided to look at what Doctor of Philosophy means, right? Doctor of Philosophy sounds like a huge thing. And doctor means to teach, which means you should be able to teach. Okay, that's one thing. And then philosophy, love of wisdom. Interesting. But what is actually philosophy? And I went on Wikipedia. Of course, I took this from Wikipedia. It's the study of general and fundamental questions such as existence and our interaction with the physical reality, reason, to be consciously applying knowledge by drawing conclusions from new or existing information with the aim of seeking truth, which is exactly what science is, isn't it? And asking yourself questions about knowledge. What is knowledge? Do we actually know something? What does it mean to know something? How often do we ask ourselves these questions? Not very often, which is a shame. Then of course there's values, ethics, thinking about what is right and what is wrong, being able to judge. So all of this is part of being a doctor, right? Doctor of philosophy, being able to advise people on how they should behave and think. Then there's of course the mind and the relationship of mind and body. We should never forget this. And language and the power of language, how we use it, how it relates with the world and the users and the people around us. So being an excellent communicator, that's also being a doctor of philosophy. So holding the title of a PhD actually comes with a big responsibility. People look at you and they think you've done something amazing, but whether this is true, we still have to decide for ourselves. So my favorite philosopher is Marcus Aurelius. If you have not read the Meditations, you definitely should. I 100% recommend. And these are two interesting quotes that he said. Give yourself a gift, the present moment. People out for posthumous fame forget the generations to come will be the same annoying people they now are. And just as mortal, what does it matter to you if they say X about you or think Y? It doesn't. And another quote, what is it to be praised? An audience clapping? No, no more than clacking of their tongues. Clacking of their tongues. Very interesting way of seeing praise, because that's what it all is at the end of the day. Well done, Ivo, you did your PhD. It's nothing. It's not something important, is it? Another thing to think about is specialists versus generalists. So this example I took from a book I read on specialists and generalists, and it takes Tiger Woods, one of the best golfers and most famous athletes in history, and Federer, one of the greatest tennis players. And Tiger Woods, when he was at the age of 3, he started playing golf. At the age of 5, he was incredible. People started noticing him. At the age of 5, can you imagine it? And then like at 9 and 10, he was like youngest guy. He did amazing things. At the age of 11, he beat his father. He destroyed him. And his father was also a good golfer and never managed to beat him again. So he took his child as a baby and raised him with a golf club. And on the contrary, you have Federer, who started his first match when he was 14. And before that, he tried many different sports. He tried badminton and basketball and also sorts of other things. And yet they both share the same title as being one of the most famous athletes in history. So what does this tell you? Does it mean that you have to specialize yourself? Does it mean that you have to remain in your speciality? Does it not mean that you can try many, many things that the world has to offer and still succeed in what you aim to achieve? My personal role models are Da Vinci, of course, an amazing person, polyvalent, engineer, artist, medic, everything. He was everything. He shaped the world as we know it today. Another one is Socrates. I consider him the father of Europe. Without Socrates, Europe would not be as it is today. And he's the seeker of truth, the man who went outside the cave and saw the light, the allegory of the cave. And finally, Diogenes, the cynic, who did not take life seriously. And this image here is very iconic. We have Alexander the Great, who comes to Diogenes and says, Diogenes, you're amazing. And Diogenes said, no, move away, you're blocking the light. You're putting shade on my face. I don't want to, let me be. And Alexander was so impressed. He was like, yeah, if I had to pick another life, I'd definitely be Diogenes. And Diogenes looked at Alexander and he said, well, if I had to pick another life, I'd still be Diogenes. Now move away, please. So that's very interesting. And it's a way of living, not taking things too seriously. So when I go back to my past, why did I decide to do a PhD in the first place? Well, truth is, I loved life so much that I actually wanted to be immortal. And it was a foolish thought. Like I was like, no, I'm gonna solve aging. I'm gonna find a way. It's a challenge. I'm gonna solve it. I'm gonna study stem cells. I'm gonna create organs, create new bodies. Grades don't matter. My professors are all idiots. They don't even speak English. Look at these French guys. They're trying to teach me something, but they don't even know how to use the internet and read scientific papers. How ironic. I was full of myself. Here's a picture of me about to take a bite of life that's about to come. So yeah, this is the beauty of being immature. Having big goals and big dreams, and it's very nice. And then I finally did my PhD, and during my PhD, it was the same thing, like clapping of tongues and hands, like, oh yeah, I went to Cambridge University. I did this course, like I made a big discovery. Here's me with my invention. I made from stem cells lung airways. How beautiful that is, isn't it? Creating something from scratch, lungs from scratch. And then I went to Oxford. And then I went to Public Health England. Here I am having fun with inhalation toxicologists. I even went to the British Parliament, and I met like parliamentaries who were there pretending that they actually care about science. None of them did. None of them actually looked at the science that was done. It was just for show, of course. But this image here is pretty beautiful. These are one of the most beautiful people I've met, and this is something that stayed with me. And here's Nicoletta as well, you can see. And this guy is Cormac, my partner, who I started the company with. So I had a lot of fun, and I certainly changed a lot after my PhD. And I realized that the world is actually full of problems. And do I actually want to make people live forever? I don't know. I don't know if I still want to do that. So I started asking myself, which problems can I solve and where to begin? Which scale to take? Should I take like the biggest challenges of the world, or should I try and aim for something smaller? Can I actually change the world? Should I change the world? Do I owe something to society? Can I make a difference? Why is this important? What is important for me? And this is a very interesting thing. It's the double rod pendulum. And for me, it's kind of like life with the ups and downs. And this point here is what I see. This is happiness. You see, it's dynamic. It never stays. Like as soon as you see it, it escapes from you, but then it comes back, and that's the beauty of it. You see. So something interesting happened, something terrible and devastating, of course, but certainly interesting, the COVID-19 pandemic. And it actually opened many problems. And one problem that I could clearly see is scientific dissemination and how it's done. Travel was no longer possible, and it's unless a very valid reason. And then we asked ourselves, is traveling actually a good thing? So many carbon emissions for a simple meeting. Scientists should know better, shouldn't they? And I was tired of static and boring Zoom presentations like this one. Now you're listening to me, you can't even interact. And many of the scientists are actually surprisingly not good with tech, unless it's their expertise, which is quite ironic if you call yourself a doctor of philosophy, right? And not being aware of the tech outside of your field. Funny. So I decided to go back to the origins, went back to Macedonia, the country I left when I was 12 years old. Why did I decide to do this? Well, I wanted to spend some time with my family, old grandparents. You see this beautiful thing my grandma makes? Well, that's very precious that you can only get in Macedonia. These tomatoes here, you cannot get them in Europe. You're used to like packaged stuff in plastic, toxic stuff. People forget what the good things of not living in a developed country are. And of course, meet my new family. I got married. I actually got married by Zoom. I wasn't even present at my own marriage. I was in the UK, and we got married for, why did I get married? It was for visa. My wife couldn't join me in the UK, but then surprise, I went back. So that was a shock. My family was shocked. What, you're going back to Macedonia? My dad was trying to escape from Macedonia his whole life, and now he's seeing his child going back. He was devastated. My PI was also shocked because he was like, "Oh, you helped me build this company from 3 people to 30, and now you're going away. What's wrong with you?" And then I arrived here and I started the company, and my banker was shocked. She was like, "What's wrong with you? Starting a company here? You're crazy. Everybody's trying to get away from this country." But it's actually pretty nice to live here. Life is cheap, 500 euros. You can live a decent life. And when you start a company, it's not that bad. So this is the company I started. I don't want to show you the whole video, but it's basically organizing interactive solutions. So this is who said virtual events can't be as good? This is what we do. Like, this is what it looks like. It's real life interactions. You can drag yourself around, and it's all interactive. People can give applause in lifetime, the praise part. It's so important. The chatting part, the networking part. Here we are. You can move around, have actual private conversations with people, which you can't actually have. We basically mastered scientific dissemination and communication, making things fun, making things real, just like in real conferences that you would have. This is my wife. She's also helping me out, you see, and so on and so on. So not to waste time, I'm going to go to the next slide. So living in Macedonia actually opened the door for new problems. And one of these problems that was very evident was the quality of air. You go outside and it smells disgusting. It smells sulfurous. It smells polluted like fog, and it's disgusting. You would be surprised the country in Europe to be ranked as the most polluted city in the world with the most polluted air, right? At least there's Zagreb and Sarajevo. We're not the only ones, you see. But still, like, this is devastating for me. Like, I'm a inhalation toxicologist that worked on lungs. I know lungs so well, and yet being in a place where I breathe poison. All those children playing outside with no masks, suffering, seeing how difficult things are to change is opening new perspectives. What happens to the old cars that the European Union is banning? Well, of course, they're sold to us here, developing countries, where there's no laws about what can be there. Particle filters, we have them, but we remove them because they're too expensive. We know when the inspection is coming. We install them when there is inspection, and then we take them out because we don't want to change them, right? So what do I plan to do next? Well, continue what I've been doing, solving problems, generating value, because that's what life is about: creating value, being valuable to your community, to your planet. What I plan to do is move to a new country because I'm tired of breathing toxic air, and also to observe the world, continue observing, because that's also part of life, observing what's around you. Continuing to study philosophy until I actually become a doctor of philosophy, and the pursuit of knowledge, of course, and to seize life as it comes. I've always done that. If I see an opportunity, I seize it. I'll probably start other companies, probably do other things. Who knows? But what I want to do is design the world the way I imagine it to be, and I imagine a beautiful world. I'm a very optimistic person, so I want to make the world the way I imagine it to be: a better world, more humane, more eco-friendly and sustainable. So this is definitely something that I plan to do. So what can you do after a PhD? Well, the truth is you can actually do whatever you want to do. Don't listen to people telling you like, oh no, you can't change your career, you're stuck to one thing. You should avoid at all costs being stuck in the trap and suffering from depression and feeling bad about yourself and how useless you are and how difficult it is. No, you're free to do what you want to do. You should take a risk in life. You know, it doesn't matter. Having money is not that important. Having praise or being judged by people is not at all important. What's important is that you enjoy life, because life is all you have. So thank you for your attention, and that's all I have to say. You can call me whatever you want to call me. I'm Ivo Djidrovski. If you want to hear some info about In3 solutions, make sure to hit me up. If you want some amazing conferences and talks, symposiums, I'm here to smash it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivo, for this amazing presentation. And the last one is I'm actually the last speaker, and I will share also my screen. So I actually have only one slide. So this is my presentation. This is the kind of my career path since I actually started with my master's abroad. And during this time, besides my master's, and I gained some skills, of course, hard skills and soft skills. I also was interested in entrepreneurship. Like Ivo, my entrepreneurship spirit was also in alert all the time. But for me, it started a little bit early. And so during this time, and of course, due to the kind of master's that I was pursuing, it was an Erasmus Mundus master program, and it was in different countries. And I was thinking, so all these things that we buy every time we go from one country to the other, what happens? It's not that nice to see all these things that we buy for a short time being thrown away and not used. And so together with some of my friends, we created this startup in Finland. And it went fine until it didn't. Of course, we didn't get funding, and we were doing it for the greater good, for the environment. We didn't want to get rich and things like that. And then it didn't go well because, well, all the investors wanted to see profits. And so after that, I went to Sweden. Was doing there my last semester of my master's, and doing also my master thesis. It was in the intersection of technology and medicine. And then I was talking with some people there, and suddenly they became very interested in my thesis project, and they invited me to participate in this incubator. And I said, yes, why not? New skills, something new that I haven't done before. I got some funding as well, the university helped, but then another roadblock. Another company had been working in similar things, and they had gotten the patent for almost similar thing that I was doing or trying to launch in the market. So at the time I was like, okay, maybe entrepreneurship is not my right thing at the moment. And I really enjoyed doing research. And so I decided to pursue a PhD. And my PhD was a little bit different from my master's, but still a combination of technology and medicine. Moved to another country, moved to Spain, learned a lot about project management skills, got involved a lot with Marie Curie, Alumni Association, science communication as well. Decision making was one of the skills that really I learned how to make it possible, because every country is different, every research lab is different, and the way how Marie Curie fellowships are is that you have to move to different countries to do part of your research. And besides that, some of these institutions were not universities. In Ireland, it was a hospital, so I had to make some difficult decision that my supervisor in Spain would not understand it, because it was a different setting. It was a hospital, not a university. And also I was doing reviewing for different conferences. I learned a lot about qualitative methods, and as an engineer, that was not my kind of skill that I had to learn. But nonetheless, during my PhD, I learned how to do that. So these skills are important, but the most important thing are the soft skills as well, like communicating with people. And of course, after this point, living in so many countries, I became also an expert on different visa schemes in various countries. But parallel to my research, as I mentioned, I was also a lot involved with Marie Curie Alumni Association. And as Radenka mentioned, we, the Western Balkan group was also created. And in 2019, we all got together in Vienna for the Marie Curie Alumni Association conference and General Assembly. And then we formed the chapter that is now. Also during this time, I organized a lot of events, conferences, hosting, also different webinars. And this is also, we have to thank also the pandemic, since everything switched from in-person to online. And also being involved with things related to COVID. And not directly, I was not doing research in COVID, but indirectly, just to spread good information out there and trying to fight misinformation. Well, because of COVID, I also got involved a lot and learning a lot about science for policy and science diplomacy. And I kind of enjoyed it, but I never thought that after my PhD, I was going to be one of those who would change completely their career and move to a different one. But then here I am. I started a fellowship last year, and I'm now a scientific advisor to the Minister of Health and Social Protection here in Albania. And I'm actually applying my research skills throughout this period to actually make some short or long-term policies in the healthcare sector here in Albania. And I completely love it. And you would say, why would somebody leave academia for policy making? Well, we also during COVID that we lacked scientists to be in the forefront of decision making. When it comes to actually science, we need to hear scientists. But then we saw a lot of politicians making decisions about this. And I think it is very important for researchers to know that there is a place for them in this regard. I'm working mainly in digitalization of the healthcare system in Albania, but also I've been involved in cancer awareness and also in the National Cancer Control Plan here in Albania. My PhD was focused in cancer, as Nikola mentioned in the beginning. And throughout this time, I had to learn a lot about cancer, although I'm not a doctor, obviously, so don't come to me to recommend about chemotherapy stuff. But I actually got to learn a lot about breast cancer, prostate cancer, and colorectal cancer. And because working so close with patients in the hospital in Ireland, I learned also a lot about empathy, collaboration, and actually listening. But at the same time, for me, this shift was quite significant when I realized that some of my suggestions and comments in the National Cancer Control Plan actually were approved. And at that moment, I realized that, hey, I'm not impacting only the participants in my study. I am actually impacting a whole population in one country. And I never thought that was going to be possible. And the moment I realized that, I took a step back and just saw the shift from academia to policy making, and think that, yeah, we need more researchers, I think, in policy making, because it's very important getting these policies that are very important, but be based in science, because that also is very important. I've been a lot involved during this time as well in gender equity in science and technology. I've been very active in Albania, but also abroad. And recently, a friend of mine, because of my involvement early in my career in entrepreneurship, I was giving advice on certain things, how to do certain things, because he was starting a company here in Albania. And he mentioned, maybe you should become a startup advisor. So maybe in the future, I might also consider startup advising. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, we are very happy to answer it.
I thank you very much for all your presentations, for your honesty in showing both sides of how it is to be in project management, in academia, in startup, and also in this policy decision-making area. We have a question from Andrew Wilson. What would you say are the important skills you had that made it possible for you to work in a research field, food science, which was different from your background? And I think this is for Radenka, because you were saying about the food hub.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. So first, I think I use my research skills that I gathered during 15 years in research. That means I could write clearly, I could analyze information, and I could communicate scientific ideas in a clear and simple terms. And in this case, actually, I was invited to work in the Center of Excellence because they needed material scientists, and they needed somebody who can help them to make biosensors for food. So that's how I started. So I knew something that could help them to realize this project. But on the other hand, also I use my experience as an evaluator for European Commission, and I know what a good project look like. And I could help them in this way. So I'm not writing the science bit, but I wanted that scientific bit is clear and understandable to me. And that's, I think, how I help them. And also I helped a lot with science communication and science dissemination and organizing different conferences, roundtable discussions, etc. So these are all, even though it was not my field, I could understand it. Of course, they give me some information beforehand, and these are things that are actually relative to everybody. for example, why or how we have to, what we have to do to, I don't know, improve things, to have better quality food. I mean, it's interesting not just for the scientists who are doing food safety and food security, but also for everyone. So the topic was interesting and it was easy to catch up.
Thank you. The next question, I think it's for Nikola, because it's about the academia. And so it's from Jan Svensky, who says that I realized that academic field is such pyramid structure. The higher you go, the more competitive and less offered position is. Do you have any tips on how to survive in this kind of competition?
So yeah, well, few tips would be probably underrate. I mean, it's you cannot say what would be the like a recipe for that. The competition actually is good thing. I won't see it as something negative. To survive competition, then it's a way of looking on things like from this negative side. But I would look on that from a positive side. That's one thing, and the second thing is really there is no like a clear recipe. It's really in academia, these ways of doing things are different from field to field, and also it depends if you're in natural sciences or in some more social sciences, if it's closer to some engineering fields or not. It's really that, I mean, if you maybe the one thing that is information that it's important is to have information. So again, we get back to networking, to talking to people, to following the trends and that kind of stuff. So that's maybe one thing, but it's only one part of it there. So not the recipe. I don't know if others can maybe add something.
I will have to leave you now. I have different things to do with my children. So thank you for inviting me, and I wish you to answer all the questions. Okay.
Thank you, Radenka. And this is also another thing that happens after PhD.
Yes. Okay, thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
We have also one comment here about this chart showing that after a bachelor's degree, your income does not climb so much. The more education you get, that doesn't mean that the more income you will receive. How do you reflect this in your career? Well, I can speak for myself. For example, it depends a lot on the profile of your PhD or your field in technology, for example, and depends also on technology in pharmaceutical companies. You have to have a PhD in most of the time to work there. So I mean, the salary is good as well. So it depends on the field, I guess. But I might not have a full picture here. Maybe Ivo, Nikola.
I disagree with this statement, because I think the more you know, the more problems you can solve, and the bigger the problems become. The bigger problems you solve, the more money you make. And it all depends on how much money you want to make, what your idea of a good income is. But the more you are educated, the more you realize that income is not as important as other things, like the value you generate and your happiness and the happiness of the people around you. So that's perspectives. If you want to make money, you don't have to do a PhD or study things. There are many things you can do.
I would just I would agree with you, and just add one thing, that actually I think in worldwide science is not a field that it would called lucrative, you know. Like, but actually, I think in many things, yeah. Well, doing the like research, let's say like that. But I think, yeah, as you said, probably
it depends on the country. Maybe we should state this as well. Maybe not in the Western Balkan countries, because also I mean we don't have enough specialized companies to work in such specific areas, for example, and we don't have that kind of innovation. So it's not a competitive advantage to have a PhD. But then, yeah, we have a question for Ivo. If you can pick the most pressing challenges you had when you moved back to your country with the shift in career, what was it and how did you come over it?
I think it was my family's expectations, because they were all saying like, no, you should not do this. You should not come back to Macedonia. You should not start a company here. That's stupid. But you know, they had to get used to it. They had no choice, and I made my choice. So that's how it is. But at least now they're happy because they know that I'm gonna go live somewhere else. It's just life, I guess.
Yeah.
But other than that, I did not see many challenges from starting a company here. In fact, it was much easier because here in Macedonia, things work by contacts. All you have to do is call people. Hello, do you know who I need to ask? Yeah, call this guy. And then I call that guy. Yeah. What should I do? Okay, go to this bank. Which bank is the best? This bank. Okay, what should I do? So people just tell you. All you have to do is ask. There's a rule in Macedonia. Well, maybe everywhere. You have to think of the 5 people that are most likely to have the answer to your question. And you just ask these 5 people and you can get to anyone. You can even get to the president if you want. Honestly.
I have a question directed to me. Starting a company is difficult in itself. How was your experience of doing so in a foreign country? What kind of challenges did you face? Well, for me, sorry. It was easy because in the Nordic countries, university helps a lot, and they kind of push students to move to that direction, starting companies, doing something else besides just working for XY company. And so they have also the mechanisms and the know-how how to help students to start the company. In Finland, the university had this entrepreneurship society, and they would organize every year during summer training and competitions and helping you with pitching and with a business model, etc. Whereas in Sweden, it was also very easy because the university also helped me connect with funding resources, but also to companies to do patent novelty search that was going to help me and actually pay the other company for that novelty search that they were doing. So there are these not small things, but they might seem small, but they help you a lot. Whereas in the region, for example, it's still kind of new. I know in Albania, a certain organization have started to pop up and help actually students with their pitching and with the ideas and funding as well. But I don't know for the rest of the other countries. And starting a company, I know that it's easy here also in Albania. Everything is like done it's online and it's done under a minute. You just need your account and this the idea of the name of the company, and then everything is very easy. I think we had another, okay. We have another question, but Nikola already answered regarding what specific training do you need for postdocs? Well, yeah, grant writing, you need it. And I mean, I've never was a postdoc, but I've seen other postdocs in my lab before, and they were doing a lot of people managing, and also writing papers, collaborating, managing the lab in general. So be prepared for a lot of administrative work besides your research. I think it's the answer here. I think that's
I actually
it.
think having a postdoc may be more challenging to find a job in industry later, because then most people in the industry will not be at the same level of education as you, and then they're going to be afraid of you. They're going to say, oh, look at this smart guy coming in and he's going to tell me how things are done. No, no, no. So that might be a challenge. But then again, like I said, you can do whatever you want to do. So if you listen to what people think and say about you, you're just going to be miserable. You have to be who you are and continue what you do.
Well, I think this was the last question, and it went a little bit over the time we had thought about. But thank you very much for joining in today, and hope you have some thinking to do and decide what you're gonna do beyond your PhDs. And well, at least try to enjoy it as much as possible, whatever your decision you make. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.